Tuesday, June 20th, 2023, and we'll call this meeting to order at 8 a.m. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your phones. You can do this by pressing star 6. Please unmute yourself when called to speak, again pressing star 6. It's very important for all others to remain muted. Thank you. So welcome to the Community Update call. This is Commissioner Bell. I'm filling in for Commissioner Scarr, who is on a much-deserved vacation camping trip with her family. So we'll start out with the Board of Commissioners roll call. Commissioner Yamamoto, are you with us this morning?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. And we'll move right into Adventist Health Tillamook. Eric, are you with us this morning?
Hey, good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
So we have 12 patients in the hospital today with one brand new baby. 10 surgery cases scheduled today. Our ambulance crews had a busy day yesterday with 10 911 transports and 4 transfers, no transports home. Across Oregon this morning, there's 106 patients boarding in emergency departments waiting for beds in hospitals. That's 3 less than yesterday. There's 392 patients that are waiting to be discharged, but there's no place for them to go. That's 14 less than yesterday as well. Last Wednesday, I had the privilege of going to Mid-Columbia Medical Center in the Dalles, which is the newest Adventist Health hospital in our system. On June 1st, we actually added 2 hospitals, Adventist Health Columbia Gorge, that's the new name, and the Bakersfield Heart Hospital. Adventist Health Columbia Gorge is a 49-bed hospital. They have 10 rural health clinics, and it was fun to interact with those leaders and compare. They are well aligned with what we do here in Tillamook, and it was a great opportunity to meet them and see what challenges that they face in the gorge and how some of their challenges are very similar to ours. I also want to share with you a little bit about the Medical Reserve Corps of Nehalem Bay. Medical Reserve Corps are a national network of more than 300,000 volunteers organized locally to improve the health and safety of their communities. MRC volunteers step up to keep their family, friends, and neighbors safe and healthy. And these are some amazing people that we have up in the Nehalem Bay area. They stepped up to the plate, did vaccinations during COVID. Whenever I have a disaster, I think of how can I use these retired nurses, physicians, technicians, and others. And they were recently recognized by the State Emergency Registry of Volunteers, or we call it SERVOR. And I just want to call out the winners. The outstanding MRC coordinator for Medical Reserve Corps, which is a leader who's made a lasting impact and impression on their community through leadership, it was given to our very own Velda Handler. And Velda still works for us as a per diem nurse, and she's been a nurse in this community for, probably 40 years. And Velda is just a star. And she was recognized by the state as the outstanding MRC coordinator. An honorable mention went to Diane Bloom, who's also a nurse with the MRC in the Nehalem Bay as well. And then Velda also was the recipient of the outstanding MRC volunteer, who plays a significant role in responding to a disaster or public health emergency. And she also was honored for having the most hours served. And her hours were 795. And so very proud of Velda. And the Emergency Volunteer Corps of Nehalem Bay President, Dr. Margaret Steele, got an MRC Mentor Award. And so I just want to thank our volunteers in Nehalem Bay for their great work. I've been working with them since their inception in 2007, 2008 in various roles that I've had, and they are wonderful people who are doing wonderful work for our community, and we should be thanking them for the great work that they do.
Eric, thank you so much for sharing with us about those SERVOR awards. I didn't know this is the first I've heard of it, and I'm just smiling from ear to ear. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of the MRC Medical Reserve Corps of Nehalem Bay, and just thrilled that our citizens those hard-working people receive those awards. Congratulations to Velda for 3 recognitions, and to Diane Bloom, whom I don't have the pleasure of knowing yet, and Margaret Steele, who I certainly do. And they're just wonderful human beings, and that is a great program. Thank you so much for telling us about that.
Yeah, I just love what they do up there, and I spoke with somebody not long ago who said that they were at a national conference, and they said, what is the best prepared community in our nation? And the answer is Manzanita. And
oh my God.
It's because of their hard work and Linda Kozlowski's vision back in 2002, 2007, 2008, and I don't want to miss anybody because it's a team effort. But they just are amazing people and done some amazing work, and so proud of them.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I had the opportunity to talk to somebody from the South County Emergency Volunteer Group last week, and we were talking about Nehalem and Manzanita as the model, and we were talking about it as the model for the state. So it's interesting to hear you describe it as the model for the nation, but I'm not surprised. And how hard they've worked over the years to develop that model that now other communities can use to grow their own programs.
Absolutely, and I'd love to see what's going to happen in South County as they use Nehalem Bay as their model. It's a good thing for all of our community. So very proud of this group.
Oh, I agree completely. Yeah, me too. So congratulations on the acquisition of the hospital in the Dalles, and that's exciting and interesting. And I wanted to ask you, going back to the first thing you talked about, the numbers about there were a number of people who are waiting to be transferred, but they don't have anywhere to go. And I wondered if you can talk about that. Is there a surge of illness in the community that's causing that, or what's going on there?
No, the whole issue across the state of Oregon is similar to what we have here in Tillamook. There are not enough skilled nursing facility beds for these patients who need to be discharged. And so they just end up being stuck in a bed because you can't just discharge somebody to the street, especially when they need skilled nursing care. And back on March 1st, there were 466. So we're at 392 today. And thus that's why there's 106 backed up in emergency departments, because we've got 392 beds that are full that shouldn't be. And so it's this trickle-down effect. When we lose, and just like us in Tillamook, where we lost our skilled nursing beds, it's really much more difficult for us to find placement for people who are don't need to be in the hospital, but are not ready to go home yet. And so it's that transitional care that we're having difficulty with as a state.
Thank you for that explanation. That makes sense, and it's sad. It's sad that there's no place for those people to go.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for sure.
Do we have any other questions for Eric?
Madam Chair, if I may?
Please.
Thank you so much. And Eric, I want to thank you for bringing up the Emergency Volunteer Corps of Nehalem Bay. I also have been working with them for many, many years, and especially the Medical Reserve Corps. I mean, North County really sets a very, very high bar for all of us, especially coastal residents, when we face such grave dangers with the Cascadia subduction zone and the annual storms and wind events and mudslides and things that we get, and floods, things that we get on the Oregon coast in particular almost every year. So it's great that we have this model to follow, and as we continue forward, that is the gold standard. It really is. So again, Eric, I want to thank you for bringing it up, and all the best to North County and the Emergency Volunteer Corps of Nehalem Bay and the Medical Reserve Corps. We're all trying to catch up. We are. It's a tough one to do, but we're trying. So thanks so much.
You're very welcome. It's an honor to work with Velda, Margaret, Diane, and the rest of the team when I get to. I used to get to work with them much more than I did, and again, they definitely do set the gold standard for us.
Well, Eric, thanks again so much for joining us. Thanks for the conversation.
Absolutely.
With that, we'll say good day and move on to Adventist Health Tillamook. Oh, sorry. The Coastal Caucus. I'm calling on the Coastal Caucus without the expectation that anyone is able to join us yet, but just in case. I talked to Representative Gomberg this morning for a few minutes just to see if he could check in with us in this call as the Coastal Caucus. He's the leader of the Coastal Caucus, so he still represents us, Tillamook County, in that way, in a regional way. And so I visited with him for a minute this morning, and he said they were due on the floor at 8, so I really didn't expect anybody to be able to join us, but he said that he'd be happy to join us next week for a recap because they have to conclude the session by Sunday. And he asked me to share that the Senate has come back. They're working together. They're plowing through bills, a lot of bills, in order to conclude the session by Sunday. So we're happy to hear that's moving forward, and we'll look forward to hearing a recap next week. Okay, on to Tillamook County Community Health Center.
Good morning, Commissioner Ed Colson with the Health Department here.
Good morning, Ed.
Well, good morning, and we also want to offer our congratulations to the MRC. They have done some amazing work during the pandemic, and we are honored to be able to work with the team up there. And so much congratulations going out to every member of the MRC. For our health department, this Saturday, June 24th, our mobile clinic will be in the June Dairy Days Parade. We're going to have staff walking alongside the clinic, handing out goodie bags filled with resources and all kinds of freebies. So we hope to see you all at the parade, and feel free to wave as we walk by. We're continuing now with our Fentanyl Aware Northwest update as we continue to talk about Narcan this week. Narcan is sprayed up the nose and will only have an effect on a person who has opioids in the system, meaning it causes no harm to someone not experiencing an opioid overdose. Knowing about and carrying Narcan does not increase drug use, it only saves the lives of those who could overdose. Anyone, even teenagers, can ask a pharmacist to provide Narcan. Most insurance companies cover the medication but may charge a copay. Oregon Health Plan provides Narcan free at the pharmacy. So to find out even more locations locally to get Narcan and watch videos on how to use it, please check out our website, fentanylawarenorthwest.com. And lastly, just as an update for health, flu and COVID-19 vaccines remain available by appointment at many healthcare facilities and pharmacies in the county, including at our main health center location. So as a reminder, the health department will be offering COVID vaccines by appointment on Tuesday and Thursday only. And if you have any questions on if you are eligible for another booster or not, please contact your primary care provider, or you can call our public health nurse who will help guide you. For resources and support in finding a vaccine, you can call Tillamook County Public Health. Our number, 503-842-3940 or 211. And if you're in need of at-home COVID test kits, they are still available at county library branches, as well as our main clinic off of 9th Street. And that's our health department update. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Ed. Do we have any questions for Ed? All right. Well, I hope you guys have a lot of fun in the June Dairy Parade. All right, moving on. Let's go to Nehalem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Gail.
And congratulations also to the MRC, Margaret, Zelda, and Diane. I did see the picture, and you look wonderful. Really appreciate all the work that everyone is doing. And it is a day of congratulations. I'd like to congratulate the graduates of the Tillamook Bay Community College and take a moment to recognize and congratulate our very own Michaela Zaragoza and Angelica Godinez for their academic achievements. Angelica was also one of the student speakers at the commencement ceremony. As noted on their website, the Tillamook Bay Community College has a place for everyone, and we certainly are proud to be able to support their numerous academic programs. And that's my announcement for this morning.
Thank you so much, Gail. I'm I'm glad that you mentioned TVCC graduation. I'm on the board there, and I was at the graduation, and it's just such a joyful event. It really is so sweet and meaningful. You know, all of these people from our community who are improving their lives, their careers. It's just a wonderful thing. And I did not know that Angelica Godinez works for for Nehalem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy, and so that's fun to know. It's just a wonderful, life-changing opportunity for students at Tillamook Bay Community College, and I want to share this one story briefly about I was on the stage with the other board members, and the college president Ross was telling a story, was reading a story that had been written by a graduate, and she wanted Ross to read it. And her family was sitting in the third row or so. So I was looking right at her family, and as Ross, President Tomlin, was reading the story written by their daughter, and her husband was there, and her parents were there, and her children were there. So 3 generations. And everybody had tears in their eyes when they were listening to the story, and they realized that it was their graduate, their daughter, their wife, whose story this was. Everybody had tears in their eyes, and it was just the best, most meaningful thing. So thank you very much for bringing it up. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the partnership of Nehalem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy with TVCC students. So thank you.
You're quite welcome, and I agree. I saw some photos, and it was very touching.
Do we have any questions for Gail? All right, thank you, Gail. Then we'll move on to Tillamook Family Counseling Center.
Good morning, Commissioners. Frank Hanna Williams, Director at Tillamook Family Counseling Center. Just sort of a special note this morning. May is Men's Mental Health Month, and this is a particular time to be able to acknowledge that men sometimes struggle to get help, and men often face societal pressures to be stoic, strong, and self-reliant, which can make it a little difficult for them to acknowledge and seek help when doing so can make a difference in their behavioral health issues and concerns. So I want to acknowledge that and acknowledge that it's a challenge for men at times. We see that here. When I talk with my staff, we see that, and I've talked about that fairly recently. So this is the time to encourage help seeking and being able to move past that barrier. Behavioral health services for Tillamook County residents. And if you are someone who is interested in services here, you can give us a call. That's 503-842-8201 or 1-800-962-2851. And I will take any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for bringing up Men's Mental Health Month. I didn't know that June was Men's Mental Health Month, and I think it's well worth talking about that the societal notion that men somehow should be more stoic, like you said, or should somehow have less need for counseling or for mental health help than women do. So I'm glad to be talking about that because, of course, that's false. We're all human and we all have the same conditions. And so thank you for bringing that up. Do we have any questions for Frank? If not, we can say thank you to Frank and move on to the Sheriff's Office.
Good morning, Commissioner. This is Sheriff Brown. I am here.
Good morning, Sheriff.
I know Ed talked about June Dairy Parade this Saturday. For the Sheriff's Office, it's parade season. We have June Dairy Parade coming up between Rockaway, Garibaldi, Dory Days, Clover Days. We have quite a few parades that we try to be involved in with community involvement, and it is definitely parade season. And once parade season is done, we hit county fair season, which is 4 days of the Tillamook County Fair, the famous Tillamook County Fair. So looking forward to all of those, and hopefully we'll see lots of people and be able to wave and say hi. Hopefully the weather turns a little bit better, which it looks like it's supposed to. Speaking of weather, we did have a little bit of rain over the last 3 days. I think we're having a little bit more now. Although it is summertime and we'd all love to see sunshine, I'm looking at the rain as kind of a small blessing in disguise, because it'll help keep things wet up in the woods and around our area, which might help damper any potential fires. So the few days of rain that we got, I'm not looking at it as being too bad. So that's all I have, and I can take questions if needed.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any questions for the Sheriff? If not, we'll say thanks to you and move on to emergency management. Do we have Randy Thorpe this morning?
You bet, Commissioner. I'm here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just to carry on from Sheriff Brown, it is still Wildfire Awareness Month here in June, and I agree with him that I was really looking forward to that rain, and I wish we would have got just a little bit more, but that's okay too. But I just really wanted to point out that if you go to the Office of the State Fire Marshal's webpage, they have got some great information on preparing for wildland fires and what to do, and how to prepare your home and get things in line. So if you just go to their webpage and then you click on the Wildfire Initiatives link, you'll come up with a whole bunch of great information and educational webinars and everything else. It's a great website for the wildfire information. So I would suggest everyone go and visit, bookmark that page, go in, look to see what they have, and get your home and everything else ready for in case we do have the unfortunate wildfire that could occur here. So with that, be safe while you're out there, enjoy the outdoors, but again, be extremely careful with what you're doing. And the other thing too is that I would we may end up having more power shutdowns after that lawsuit that went through over in Salem against Pacific Power. So I would also get prepared for the power safety shutdowns that could happen during high wind times during the summer. So again, just the main word is be prepared and make sure that you have that 72-hour go bag right there by your door, and you've got plenty of drinking water out in your garage. So with that, I'll turn it back to the Commissioner.
Thank you, Randy. Thanks for bringing that up. I was thinking about that too, with the Pacific Power in the news, and the possibility that power companies will now shut down power proactively or defensively if they anticipate that kind of windstorm. So we should all be prepared for power outages in the summer in a way that perhaps we haven't been in the past. I think a lot of people prepare for them in the winter, but not necessarily in the summer. So that's an excellent point. Thank you. Do we have any questions for Randy? If not, we'll move on to the Board of Commissioners. Commissioner Yamamoto, would you like to start, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair. So there's still a lot going on here in the state of Oregon. We're very glad that the Senate is back in session, and there is some important work that needs to be done, and it needs to be done very quickly. There are a lot of bills out there. There's still some bills out there that I would prefer not advance, but be that as it may. There are a lot of bills out there that are imperative that we get passed, and one of my concerns, of course, was HB 3201, the broadband bill. We all worked very hard on that broadband bill, along with the industry, to hammer out a deal so that the state of Oregon could be eligible for all of this funding. The federal government has $64 billion put aside for broadband to the states and local communities, but you had to meet certain minimum standards as set forth by the federal government. That's what 3201 does. It's imperative that we get this passed. I thought originally that Oregon might be eligible for up to $700 million in broadband funding from the federal government. We had an OBAC meeting, or Oregon Broadband Advisory Council meeting, I think 2 weeks ago, and it was very interesting. But now, because of some changes to the mapping that was done, and we very much appreciate our federal delegation, Senator Wyden, Senator Merkley, Congresswoman Bonamici, in really pushing hard for Oregon to get a better idea of unserved and underserved areas in the state. Some additions have been made, some corrections have been made to the maps, and now it appears that Oregon is eligible for up to $900 million for broadband. So that's all great news. We are hoping that HB 3201 gets pushed forward, and I think it will. And so that's a great thing. It is. One other conversation I want to have is about the BIOP, NOAA Fisheries FEMA biological opinion. And I know you've heard me rant and rave about this for a long time. We are making some progress, amazingly. So it appears that all of our pleas, especially with the help of our federal delegation, Senators Merkley and Wyden and Congresswoman Bonamici, has kind of been at the forefront of this, browbeating FEMA, which we really, really do appreciate. So they are now, so we had an extension to the comment period, and now we have a commitment from FEMA, because of Congresswoman Bonamici, to have continuing meetings with the major stakeholders in the state of Oregon, which is terrific. It really is. So there was a meeting, 2 weeks ago, I believe, for electeds in the state of Oregon. Unfortunately, I could not make that meeting. I was scheduled to be in Sisters to testify before the Board of Forestry, which also apparently we're making some progress on, amazingly. But be that as it may, the BIOP continues to move forward. I am headed to Austin, Texas in July for the NACO, the National Association of Counties annual meeting, where I am actually, instead of renewing our BIOP resolution at NACO, I've been asked if we can maybe turn that into a platform item for the National Association of Counties. Have not done that before. It's going to be an interesting process to see how that might work out. It may be a little more difficult. In the past, I have passed this resolution 3 times at NACO, each time unanimously. I think since this is going to the entire delegation and the board of NACO, this may be a little more difficult, but I'm very positive and hoping that we can make this a platform item at NACO, give it much more visibility, so that especially the lobbyists we have at NACO can start to really address Congress on this issue, since this is now a nationwide issue. FEMA said about 1.5 years ago that once they're done with Oregon, there's going to be a nationwide rollout of the NOAA Fisheries FEMA BIOP. So I think we've got everyone's attention. Fingers crossed, we'll continue to make some progress here. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, I have a couple things I'd like to talk about. The first is that this week, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife begins a series of community open houses to listen to communities talk about how reintroducing sea otters off the Oregon and Northern California coast would impact our community. And so the first The first of the meetings is in Astoria tonight from 5:30 to 8, and the second meeting is in Garibaldi tomorrow from 10:30 to 1. And I'm sorry that we can't be at that meeting, or if we can, we'll be late because our board meeting is tomorrow morning and we'll be adopting the budget, presumably, at 10:30. So, but I would really like to be there. And anyone who's interested in Oregon fishing, I hope you can make an effort to be there. The meetings go on from north to south in Oregon, Newport, June 21st, Florence, June 22nd, etc. And you could find out more information about this on the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service website. If it were me, I would Google U.S. Fish and Wildlife, public open houses, sea otters, and see what comes up. And if you can't find it, just email me and I'll forward you my invitation. So the background on this briefly is that the southern sea otter is listed as threatened under the Endangered Species Act. They did a reintroduction feasibility study, and the study determined that it is feasible to reintroduce sea otters to the Oregon coast and the Northern California coast. However, the feasibility study doesn't have anything to do with impact. So I'm looking at their invitation here. It says, the assessment also concluded that additional information about how reintroduction would affect stakeholders and local communities was needed before considering the next steps. There's no active proposal to reintroduce sea otters at this time. However, they're obviously considering it. So I really encourage people who are interested in Oregon coast fisheries to show up at the meetings, make your comments and your concerns known. I'm concerned because my brother lives on an island off of the coast of Alaska, and I was fishing out there with him and some other local fishermen, and there are otters there, and they float around out in the water, and you know, they're really big, like seal size. They're huge compared to river otters. They're surprisingly large and super cute. They're out there floating around on their backs. And the local fishermen really dislike them strongly in the way that our fishermen strongly dislike seals and sea lions, because they told me that sea otters off the Alaska coast have decimated their crab fishery. And so this has me very concerned about our crab fishery should they choose to reintroduce sea otters here. So I think everybody who's interested in commercial and recreational fishing and crabbing off of the Oregon coast should be interested in this topic. So again, they're talking about this. They're taking public comment in Garibaldi tomorrow from 10:30 to 1 at the Old Mill RV Resort, and in Astoria tonight from 5:30 to 8 at the Astoria Elks Lodge, in Newport the 21st, also Wednesday from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at Newport Rec Center. So I'm sure you can find information about this online or email me and I will send it to you. So another topic is the budget. We will presumably adopt the county budget this week, tomorrow, at our budget meeting, which is part of our board meeting, tomorrow at 10:30. And that's, you know, we've gone through the work to develop the budget and work through the issues in the budget, and presumably, you know, unless there's some great surprise, we'll vote to adopt the budget tomorrow. And I just wanted to talk about that for a minute, because this was a contentious budget process, and there's concern about, in order to balance the budget, we're using money from our reserve and from our beginning fund balance. So we, you know, we have concerns about the revenue shortfall, timber revenue shortfall, and the uncertain financial situation that may be on the horizon. You know, nobody has a great crystal ball, but it looks like it's possible that we're headed into a recession, and it certainly looks like it's possible that we're headed into a time with reduced timber revenue. So what we're doing about that, one of the things we're doing about that, is we're beginning a strategic planning process that will help us look at long-term budgeting. You know, we currently budget for a year at a time, and we frequently have these skies falling predictions that don't come true, thankfully, but occasionally they have come true. I had a chance to visit with Karen Dye, who is a former Tillamook County Treasurer, who has a long history with the budget. Next year, you know, how often, how many times has there been a true budget crisis? And she said, oh, a couple times, you know, and around the 2000 recession and certainly 2008, and so it has happened, and we talked about things that they've done in the past to address that, and so we want to look at a long-term budget. You know, I should speak for myself. I want to look at a long-term budget. I want to look at a 5-year budget. What would that look like? And of course, you know, budgets are living documents, and it would obviously have to change over time, but I'd like to be able to project ahead instead of what feels sort of herky-jerky motion of doing this every year, and project ahead. And I think we also, in the strategic planning process, we can look at our budget, our budget priorities. What's our budget philosophy? What are the things that well, for one thing, counties have mandated services. So if indeed we were heading into a time of reduced revenue, what's our philosophy about thoughtfully tightening our belts? And how do we want to work on that? How would we accomplish that? What makes the most sense? What, you know, there are, if we couldn't, the painful question is, if we could not provide the services that we're providing today, what could we stand to lose? What can the community stand to lose? So we really need to work through that philosophically. What do we believe? What do we believe is important? And practically, what do we absolutely need to provide? And what are the things that we're happy to provide, but they're not mandated services? So we need a tightening strategy. It looks like it's possible that we're headed into a recession. It's possible we're not. Don't quote me on that. But there are a lot of people who are concerned that we are. And we also met last week with Kate Skinner, who's the forester for Tillamook State Forest, and we met with her last week, and she talked to us about there are a number of millions of dollars worth of timber sold that hasn't been cut, and so it's possible that all that timber will be cut and we'll receive the revenue and we'll be fine. But there are all kinds of, you know, there are all kinds of variables. There are all kinds of things happening that, for example, there weren't enough roads being built after Fallon Logging closed their business, and so the market had to catch up to road building ability. And then in the meantime, logging companies went to the Sandy Am forest to cut timber that was in those forest fires. And so there are a bunch of variables. There are things that are happening that we have no way of controlling. So maybe we're going to get that revenue, and maybe we're going to have to continue to wait for it, and we just don't know. So that's the work ahead, and you know, I just think it's possible. This budget looks okay, but the reason it looks okay is because we balanced it with funds from the beginning fund balance and from the reserve. And that's what the reserve is for, so it's not a disaster, but we certainly can't do that year after year. So that's the work moving forward, is if we have to cut where, and then also the question of if we had to generate more revenue, where, how could we at all, and if we could, how could we, and what are our strategies for that? So that's the budget this week, and then I want to end with some happy news. I think the week before last, Tillamook County Parks was visited by Ashley Schaffer, I'm probably mispronouncing her name, who's the CEO of a company called Empowering Access, and she was sponsored also by Tillamook Coast Visitors Association. And so what the visit was about was Ashley Schaffer came out and visited personally, and she uses a wheelchair to get around. And so she visited 3 Tillamook County parks and used all of their facilities so that she could give them an on-the-ground, real-time assessment of how are our facilities for access. And so I met with the Parks Department last week about this, because I'm the liaison to Parks, and they were so grateful. They were so enthused about this visit because, you know, we all care about access. Everybody cares about access. I mean, speaking broadly, but we care deeply about access. But if you're not a person who has mobility issues, if you're not using a wheelchair, you may not be able to anticipate what that person's experience is. And so it was so valuable to have her here and sharing her experience in our parks to say, you know, I can't reach this thing, or this is difficult for me, or this rock is too big because my tires won't go over this rock. So it was just a terrific visit, and we learned so much that was valuable. And their Tillamook Coast Visitors Association has a post about this up on their Facebook page. You could search Visit Tillamook Coast on Facebook, and also the Tillamook County Pioneer did an article about it, and it's up on the Tillamook County Pioneer website. And if it's not on the Parks Department Facebook page yet, it will be soon. So you could look for it in those places. And I think I will wrap up there and move on to cities. Do we have somebody from Manzanita? Mayor Simmons, are you here? Or Layla Ahmad? Do we have anybody from Manzanita?
Yes, Commissioner
Hello?
Bell, can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, good morning. Oh, you're cutting out a little bit.
Right.
Tracy, go ahead.
Commissioner Bell, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can,
Hello?
thanks.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you for doing. Sorry about that. A couple of things. The Dorset Street construction will continue through July, and many compliments are coming to our notice about how great the crews are, the working crews. So we thank them for their hard work and being good neighbors to us. The theme for the July 4th parade is Return to Glory. And thank you to all the folks who have made donations to our parade. Erin Lasky and her volunteers have done a wonderful job in pulling together this major project, so we thank them. And also the retailers for hosting those jars where the money can go. Mayor's Monday on June 26th will be back at the library, and it will happen at 5 o'clock. And that's it for Manzanita. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Simmons. Do we have anyone online from Nehalem? Mayor Phil Chick or anybody from Nehalem? How about Wheeler? Mayor Doug Honeycutt? Rockaway Beach?
Good
Mayor
morning,
McNeely, are you with us? Hello,
Can you
good
hear
morning.
me?
Yes,
morning.
thank you.
I am here this morning. A couple of things for the good of the order. Our City Council approved a project to replace the aging restrooms at the Wayside, which is our most popular beach access point, and among other things, it'll bring our restrooms into ATA compliance, and it's being funded through our city's TRT revenue. We're also in the planning stages for a ramp and a beach access at the Wayside to further increase accessibility for folks, including mobility challenged individuals. The City Council also approved a project for a new parking lot and park facility on Anchor Street between South 2nd and South 3rd. It will have 43 paved parking stalls, charging stations, restrooms, an event space with utilities, and then there is some space designated for recreational amenities, and the Planning Commission will begin working on ideas for and taking ideas from residents on what we should do with that recreation space. And that project should break ground in September. We do have an opening, I've mentioned before, on our Planning Commission, and the deadline for applications is the 27th of June, and details, of course, on our city website. We're all excited here about our 4th of July parade, Small Town America. The parade starts at 11. I've been told I get to participate in the float judging from 10 to 10:45, so I'm kind of excited about that, and of course I'm going to get to ride in the parade, which is pretty exciting for me. We'll have our usual wiener dog races at 1 p.m. at Phyllis Baker Park, and this is a fundraiser for Tillamook Animal Shelter. And then our fireworks show will begin at 10 p.m. And then mention that our staff is working with Visit Tillamook Coast on a new campaign called Welcome. We're open for business, and as part of this campaign, we're going to incorporate grants for repairs and improvements to Rockaway Beach business exteriors and frontage, including improving the accessibility of their entrances. And so when this program is approved by the City Council, annually we'll have up to $200,000 a year to give out in grants, which our business community and I'm very excited about this opportunity. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have anybody with us from Garibaldi, Mayor Hall?
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning, we can.
Wonderful. The City of Garibaldi is holding a budget meeting tonight to review and hopefully adopt a budget that has been very challenging for the city this year. The meeting starts at 5:30 at City Hall's community room, and it's also going to be available on Zoom. Anyone wishing to see the budget can go to the city's website and review the documents that we will be looking at tonight. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Do we have Mayor Dave McCall from Bay City?
Yes, good morning. Bay City has no update for this week. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And City Manager Nathan George from Tillamook?
Good morning, Commissioner. Can you hear me?
Good morning, we can.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Yes, in the Public Works Department, I want to talk a little bit about the June Dairy Parade. For those who don't know, the June Dairy Parade, held annually the fourth Saturday of June, is a Tillamook Greater Area Chamber of Commerce event, not a City of Tillamook event. However, the city has traditionally and historically supported the chamber in this event by providing labor, supplies, and other assistance. That assistance takes the entire Public Works Department, the entire Police Department, even sometimes many of our additional members and staff here at City Hall. In fact, I personally worked the parade last year. To hold the event, not to mention the chamber has those involved. They hire flaggers, city helped pay for flaggers as well, and many others are involved. This includes months of planning and preparation in addition to the actual day of the parade setup, oversight, and takedown. The city wants the community and the chamber to have a well-attended and wonderful event as usual. Accordingly, the Public Works crews will be prepping the parade route this week by sweeping and deploying no parking signs in downtown core in anticipation of the event on Saturday. Staff will continue to prep all necessary signs, barricades, and traffic control devices, getting them palletized, labeled, and ready for deployment. So we ask everyone's patience and carefulness as they're driving, mindfulness as they are around the downtown area and the rest of the city. In preparation, also, in addition to preparing and holding the June Dairy Parade, Public Works Department will be carrying on its normal operational tasks. And we remind everyone, if you have anything or see anything on roads or parks, please email our Public Works Department at publicworks@tillamookor.gov. And in the Police Department, Tillamook Police Department remains busy with summertime traffic calls for service and community engagement. Please save the date for our annual National Night Out Barbecue occurring on Tuesday, August 1st at Goodspeed Park in Tillamook. More details will come. The last year was the first year the city has done this, and it is a special night to honor our police department and to help create that community feeling and kind of help bring the community and the police department together. All law enforcement for that matter. This past week, the police department attended the Tillamook Family Counseling Clinical Director Robin Herrick's Going Away lunch. Ms. Herrick was a great community partner we will all miss, and we want to wish her the best of luck in her new adventures. Planning for the June Dairy Parade and the Police Department has been wrapping up, as I mentioned, regarding the Public Works Department, and our offices will be helping the Public Works Department to ensure we have a safe June Dairy Parade. And the Tillamook Police Department also has a rich history of supporting the Oregon Special Olympics and the Oregon Fallen Badge Foundation, and our lieutenant is very involved in both of those. The police department is planning to attend a car cruise-in, which is a fundraiser for both groups. The Tillamook High School Drag Racing Club will also be in attendance. Reminder, if you see something, say something by calling 911 for emergencies or dispatch for non-emergencies. This is the only way our law enforcement emergency services can address any concerns or issues. And the next regular council meeting will be held tonight, 7 p.m. And we, we will have our municipal budget on there. That's the main item. We have several things, but that's the main item is our budget and everything surrounding the budget. So we do encourage anyone and everyone that would like to attend the council meeting to either be there in person or attend online. All of our public meetings by state law now are all on a link. You can go to our website, find a link, and it's through Teams meetings through Microsoft. And those desiring to attend can do so. You can also call the city if you have any questions or need some assistance. And that is all I have, Commissioner. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. How about South County? Do we have Doug Olson on the line? Anybody from South County? Well, if not, I'll say thank you to KTIL for broadcasting this meeting. Thanks to everyone for listening, and thanks to everyone who participates. I hope you all have a wonderful day. This meeting is adjourned at 8:51.